George, I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about you.
Okay.
How'd you get going? Like, what was your what was your first vape or vapor hit, or what's in there to talk about? How'd you get started in all this, man?
What was your
Hmm.
first weed experience?
Yeah.
Oh man, my first weed experience was in a car by the River Thames, being driven by a literally professional Boy George lookalike, and a guy who I worked with. Basically, I used to, this is when I was like 16 or something, I used to work in a printing shop. And the guy who was like my manager was just best friends with this Boy George lookalike guy. There's a guy called Kevin who worked in a TV repair shop. And on his weekend, he would take jobs as a Boy George lookalike, and he'd often just go out for a night out dressed as Boy George and just get, treated like a celebrity. This was in the late 90s, so Boy George was still a relatively, iconic figure, at least in Britain anyway. And he was big in the sort of electronic dance music scene at that time. He was like a big DJ at like the Ministry of Sound in London and stuff. So, if you walked around to nightclubs with Boy George, he'd get treated like royalty. You'd get the bottles of champagne, the VIP, the red rope and stuff. So yeah, I was just out on a night with these guys, and he pulled out this Squidgy Black. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Squidgy Black. It's a type of hash that is really like squidgy. It's Moroccan. You don't have to heat it up or anything to crumble it. It's not like traditional Moroccan hash is often quite like solid and firm, and you kind of maybe have to heat it a little bit to fluff it up and crumble it into your joint. But Squidgy Black was just, you could pull it apart and just roll it up in a joint. And I was like, what is this? I've never touched any weed or anything like that. And I was like, I'm not, I don't do drugs. I'm just going to sit here while you guys. And of course, they started taking puffs on it. And pretty soon, the smell was filling the car. And I was like, oh man, that smells good actually. And these guys seem like they're having a good time. So I took a couple of tokes on this joint, and man, I don't think I ever looked back. It was like the following week, I was like asking people at my school, hey, do you know where I can get any weed, any hash, anything like that? And it's kind of been a lifelong obsession for me ever since. I was involved in the cannabis legalization activism group when I was at university. I was also involved in like student radio there. And it was like a few years later, after I was kind of working, I had my own place, and it just kind of occurred to me, podcasts started coming out, and I thought I can combine these two. I can do a podcast about weed. It was about 2005 or something, and that's what I did. And I used my old uni nickname. People at university used to call me Dope Fiend because I was like the weed guy.
I remember Dope Fiend, man.
And that was me. So I called myself Dope Fiend, bought dopefiend.co.uk, the website, started podcasting, and I did that until 2013. And as part of that journey, I stopped smoking and started vaping. I've always had asthma, so smoking was no good for me anyway. And my dad had very serious smoking-related illness, which eventually killed him, unfortunately. But that was a huge motivator to me. I was just like, I can't smoke, but I can't give up weed. And edibles, that just don't quite do it for me. I need something else. And vapes came along. Right at that point, it was like perfect timing. I tried a volcano out in Amsterdam, and I was like, okay, this is what we're talking about. This is what I need in my life, a volcano.
And that was your first experience with the vaporizer, was the volcano?
I'd actually tried like some slightly shonkier devices before that. There's one called the Blue Meanie, which it was like, I'm pretty sure it was a UK made device. It's basically a soldering iron with a jam jar on top. It's very similar to like the old BC.
Looks like a gumball machine.
Yes, kind of like that. Yeah. But there was no temperature control on it. So it would just eventually carbonize the weed in there. You'd sort of sprinkle your weed on a little hot plate and suck through a whip. And, you know, it was an unisolated air path. The hits tasted like electronics burning, like horrible robot farts or something. And, you know, you got kind of high from it, but part of it was probably from the off-gassing plastic in the body of the device and all that stuff. So, you know, I was interested in that, but it wasn't doing it for me. And then I got a Vapefiend 1, which I was like, this looks cool.
Right.
It's on the High Times front page. It's got like big glossy ads. Vapefiend, they must be a great company. It must be, you know, it's digital. It's got to be better than a volcano. And I was wrong, actually. It wasn't. It was awful. Made a horrible noise when you used it. It went like that. So I got a volcano. As soon as I tried the volcano in Amsterdam at Amnesia coffee shop, as soon as I got home, I was like, I've just got to fork out the cash for this volcano and get it. And then it was like a couple of years later, these guys in Ireland came up with a gas-powered portable vaporizer, butane gas-powered.
Iolite?
Yeah, the Iolite. Originally, the iInhale actually was
Really?
good, but Apple basically sued them. Set them.
That's right. That's right.
No,
Yeah.
Iolite.
Yeah. But that was like when butane, you talk about butane vapes now and you think of a Dynavap, obviously, or like a sticky brick or something like that. But this was actually, you'd fill the vape itself up with butane and then you'd click it like you're firing up an old heater or something, an old boiler or something to catch the pilot light, you know, click, click, and it'd go shh. And then you'd hit it, and the thing was, it was quite low dosage. Again, it didn't have any temperature control, and so you'd be stuck at like 380 Fahrenheit or something like that. And then you'd just have to sit there and inhale from it. You wouldn't get a big cloud of smoke. It was quite wispy vapor, and you'd just be inhaling from it for like half an hour, basically. And then finally it'd kind of kick and you'd be like, oh, okay, now I'm seriously high, you know. It's kind of crept up on me. But I used to do that on bus rides home from working my night shift at a radio station in London. And, you know, it'd be like 6 a.m. and there'd be, you know, just a few sleepy people getting on the bus going to work, and I'd be up at the top and the back hitting my Iolite, you know, with this very faint smell of cannabis vapor filling the bus. And, you know, nobody was quite sure. They could kind of smell it, but vapes didn't exist. And, you know, there definitely wasn't any smoke. So people would be like looking around and they'd be like, what is that weird little hissing noise? And why does it smell ever so faintly of cannabis in this bus? And I'd be there like chilling in my chair, like hanging out. So yeah, that kept me going for a little while. And then it was the Ariza Solo that kind of, that did it for me. I was like, okay, so you can have an electronic vape, battery powered, no need for this gas, flavor's incredible on that thing, the glass mouthpiece. I was like, okay, there is so much variation in this game. You know, it's so different. You can have that wispy, faint experience that kind of gets you to that cerebral level of high, but slowly. And you can have that intense flavor experience that's, you find flavors in your herb that you didn't even know was in there. You know, you never taste that smoking. And then you can have this volcano experience, like hitting your head around the side with like a, you know, like a 10 kilogram like vape slapper or something, you know.